I felt my heart skip a beat yesterday and immediately started Googling heart palpitations. 3 hours later, I was convinced I was having a heart attack and needed to call an ambulance. Turns out I had too much caffeine. But that's the thing. How are you supposed to know? Like, heart disease is the #1 killer. People have heart attacks in their 30s now, and the symptoms can be so subtle, especially for women. What if that weird chest tightness isn't anxiety? What if it's actually something serious? And then I start thinking about all the other things that could be wrong. That mole on my arm that might have changed shape, the headache I've had for 3 days, the fact that I'm tired all the time. Is that just stress, or is it diabetes, cancer, some autoimmune disease that's slowly destroying my organs?
Oh God, the diabetes thing is so real. Like, I eat one donut and I'm convinced I'm pre-diabetic. And then I read about how it can cause blindness and kidney failure and amputations, and suddenly I'm spiraling about losing my feet. But here's what really gets me. All the random ways your body can just betray you. Like, you can drown in a bathtub with just a tiny amount of water if you fall asleep or have a seizure. A teaspoon of water in your lungs can kill you. How are we supposed to feel safe taking baths?
Wait, what? I didn't know that.
See, now I've given you something new to worry about. But it's true. And don't even get me started on vaping. Popcorn lung, collapsed lungs, all these chemicals we don't even know about yet. Kids think it's harmless, but their lungs are getting destroyed. And it's not just the big scary diseases. It's the random stuff. Choking on food, slipping in the shower, having an allergic reaction to something you've eaten 100 times before. Your body can just decide one day that peanuts are poison.
You two are worried about heart attacks and drowning. Let me tell you about the real nightmare scenarios. Brain aneurysms. They can rupture at any time without warning. You could be perfectly healthy and then just gone. No symptoms, no prevention, just a ticking time bomb in your head.
Please don't.
And strokes. Young, healthy people are having strokes now. Could be the birth control, could be stress, could be just genetic bad luck. 1 minute you're fine, the next minute you can't speak or move half your body.
Why do you know all this stuff?
Because I research everything, and the human body is basically a disaster waiting to happen. We're all just walking collections of organs that can fail at any moment. Blood clots that can travel to your heart or brain. Infections that can go septic overnight. Autoimmune diseases where your body literally attacks itself. And then there's cancer. It's not just something that happens to old people anymore. Young adults getting brain tumors, colon cancer, breast cancer. Sometimes there's no family history, no risk factors, just random cellular mutations that decide to kill you.
I think I need to lie down.
But that's dangerous too. What if you have a blood clot and lying down makes it worse?
Oh, and don't forget about sudden cardiac death. Athletes dropping dead on the field. People in their 20s just collapsing during normal activities. Turns out they had some undiagnosed heart condition that nobody knew about.
How do you function knowing all this?
Who says I function? I'm terrified of everything. I won't fly because planes crash. I won't drive because car accidents. I won't walk outside because of random violence or getting hit by debris falling from buildings.
Wait, debris falling from buildings?
It happens. Construction accidents, pieces of facades falling off skyscrapers, even pigeons flying into people's heads and causing injuries. You're never really safe anywhere.
Pigeons attacking people?
Not attacking exactly, but birds can cause serious injuries. Plus, they carry diseases. And don't get me started on all the other animals that are more dangerous than people think. Dog attacks, bee stings if you're allergic, even domestic cats can give you infections that affect your brain.
Now I'm afraid of my cat.
You should be. Cat scratch fever is real, and toxoplasmosis can literally change your behavior and increase your risk of car accidents and suicide.
Are you trying to make us afraid of everything that exists?
I'm just stating facts. The world is full of things that can hurt you. Food poisoning from restaurants, carbon monoxide leaks, house fires from faulty wiring, gas explosions, medication interactions that your pharmacy doesn't catch.
What about medical errors? Like, what if you go to the hospital for help and they accidentally kill you?
Medical errors are actually one of the leading causes of death. Wrong medications, surgical mistakes, misdiagnoses. People go in for routine procedures and never come out.
So we're supposed to be afraid of being sick and afraid of getting medical care?
Now you're getting it. There's literally no safe option. Even doing nothing is dangerous because you might miss early signs of something serious.
This is why I can't sleep at night. Every little pain or weird feeling could be something catastrophic.
And if you ignore it, you could die. But if you go to the doctor for every little thing, you're a hypochondriac, and they stop taking you seriously.
Plus, medical debt could ruin your life even if the treatment works. So you're stuck choosing between dying of something treatable or going bankrupt trying to stay alive.
I hate this. I hate that I can't just exist in my body without being terrified of it.
But how do you not be terrified when there are so many actual things that can go wrong?
Exactly. People say we're being dramatic, but we're just paying attention to reality. The human body is fragile and the world is dangerous, and pretending otherwise doesn't make you safer.
Okay, time out. If you just listened to that and you're now checking your pulse and Googling brain aneurysm symptoms, we need to pump the brakes here.
Hi everyone, I'm Cora, and yes, that was me spiraling about drowning in bathtubs and being afraid of my own cat, which, by the way, is purring next to me right now and clearly not plotting my demise.
I'm Gianna, and I just spent the last few minutes convincing everyone that their bodies are death traps and the world is out to get them, which is not exactly the most helpful perspective, even if some of it is technically true.
And I'm Emily, currently having phantom heart palpitations because I talked myself into them. So this is What Me Worry, Episode 3, where we explore the wonderful world of health anxiety and random disaster fears.
The thing about health anxiety is that it's based on real possibilities. People do have heart attacks and strokes and cancer. Bodies do sometimes betray us in scary ways.
Right. It's not like we're afraid of unicorns or dragons. These are actual things that happen to actual people, which makes it really hard to dismiss the fears as completely irrational.
But there's a difference between being aware that health problems exist and living in constant terror that every sensation in your body is a medical emergency.
And that's what we're going to unpack today. How do you take reasonable care of your health without becoming obsessed with every possible thing that could go wrong?
Plus, we'll talk about the difference between actual risk factors and the random freak accident scenarios that keep us up at night.
We're also going to discuss why WebMD is both a blessing and a curse, and how to know when to actually worry versus when to just monitor and wait.
And we'll talk to Julian from Colorado, who wrote to us about flight anxiety that's gotten worse since he started reading aviation news.
But first, let's acknowledge something important. If you're someone who deals with health anxiety, you're not being dramatic or attention-seeking. Your fears are based on real possibilities, and it makes sense that thinking about them would be scary.
Right. The problem isn't that you're worried about health issues. The problem is when the worry becomes so constant and intense that it interferes with actually living your life.
Like when you're spending more time Googling symptoms than you are enjoying the fact that you feel fine most of the time.
Or when you're avoiding activities you enjoy because of very low probability risks. That's when fear stops protecting you and starts limiting you.
And here's something I've learned in therapy. Your body is actually pretty good at keeping you alive. It has all these built-in systems to heal injuries, fight infections, and maintain itself.
Most of the time, when something feels off, it's your body handling a minor issue and getting back to normal. Not every headache is a brain tumor.
Though I have to say, this is still hard for me to believe. My research brain wants to catalog every possible threat and prepare for all of them.
But that's impossible, right? You can't prepare for every possible medical emergency or freak accident.
And trying to do that just makes you exhausted and hypervigilant without actually making you safer.
True. And statistically, most people live long, relatively healthy lives without experiencing the dramatic medical emergencies we worry about.
The challenge is trusting that your body will probably be fine while still taking reasonable care of it.
Which sounds simple, but is actually really hard when you have anxiety brain.
Because anxiety brain is always asking, but what if this is the exception? What if this is the one time something bad actually happens?
And you can't prove a negative. You can't prove that you're not having a heart attack right now. You can only look at the evidence and make reasonable decisions.
So today we're going to talk about what reasonable actually looks like when it comes to health and safety.
And how to live with uncertainty without letting it paralyze you.
Because the goal isn't to never worry about your health. The goal is to worry about it in proportion to actual risk and in ways that actually help.
instead of ways that just make you more anxious.
Which is harder than it sounds, but we're going to try anyway.
Because what else are we going to do?
Hide in our houses and never do anything ever?
Don't tempt me.
Let's talk about the thing I know we all do, turning every minor bodily sensation into a medical emergency. Like yesterday's heart palpitation situation that sent me down a 3-hour research rabbit hole.
Oh, I do this constantly. Last week, I had a headache for 2 days, and by day 2, I was convinced it was either a brain tumor or an aneurysm about to rupture.
But here's the thing. Headaches that last multiple days can actually be a sign of something serious. So it's not completely irrational to be concerned.
And that's exactly the problem. There's always just enough medical truth to make the fear seem reasonable.
Right? Like, chest pain can be a heart attack. Persistent headaches can be brain tumors. Changes in moles can be skin cancer. These are real medical facts.
So how are we supposed to know when to worry and when to just wait and see?
This is something I've been working on with my doctor, actually. She taught me about the difference between acute symptoms and chronic symptoms.
What's the difference?
Acute means sudden and severe, like if I suddenly couldn't speak or had crushing chest pain or couldn't catch my breath. Those are called 911 situations.
But most of our anxiety is about chronic, vague symptoms, like being tired or having occasional headaches or noticing your heartbeat.
Exactly. And those are much more likely to be normal body stuff or stress-related than medical emergencies.
But what about the stories you hear about people who ignored symptoms and then it turned out to be something serious?
Those stories are terrifying because they're the exceptions that prove the rule. They get so much attention precisely because they're unusual.
Right? You don't hear stories about the millions of people who had headaches that turned out to be dehydration or tension.
So how do you actually make the decision about whether to worry?
My doctor gave me this framework. First, is it sudden and severe? If yes, get help immediately. If no, monitor it for a few days.
And what does monitoring look like?
Ask yourself practical questions. Am I dehydrated? Stressed? Did I sleep poorly? Have I been sitting at my computer for 6 hours straight? Have I been clenching my jaw?
Oh, the jaw thing is huge. I get so many headaches from grinding my teeth when I'm anxious.
And most of the symptoms we worry about have really boring, common explanations. Fatigue is usually poor sleep or stress. Headaches are usually tension or dehydration.
But anxiety brain doesn't want boring explanations. It wants to solve the mystery and eliminate all uncertainty.
Which is impossible. You can't know for sure that a headache isn't something serious without getting an MRI, and you can't get an MRI for every headache.
Plus, even if you did get all the tests, anxiety brain would just find something else to worry about. What if they missed something? What if the equipment was broken?
So the real skill isn't learning to diagnose yourself. It's learning to tolerate not knowing for sure.
That sounds terrifying.
It is at first. But here's what I've noticed. Most of the time when I just wait and see, the symptom goes away on its own.
What about when it doesn't go away?
Then I make an appointment with my actual doctor instead of trying to figure it out myself with internet research.
But what if you wait too long and miss something important?
That's the fear, right? But my doctor told me something really helpful. She said most serious conditions don't get dramatically worse in a span of a few days or even weeks.
Meaning, if you wait a week to see if a headache resolves, you're not going to miss treating a brain tumor?
Right. Obviously, there are exceptions, but for most things, watching and waiting for a reasonable amount of time is actually the medically appropriate thing to do.
How long is reasonable?
It depends, but my rule of thumb is about a week for minor symptoms. If something persists for a week and doesn't have an obvious explanation, then I call my doctor.
And what about the Googling? Because I know we all do it.
I've had to set boundaries around that. I allow myself to look up basic information, like what causes headaches in general, but I don't allow myself to go down the rare disease rabbit holes.
How do you stop yourself?
I literally close the browser and do something else. And I remind myself that Googling symptoms has never once made me feel better or given me useful information.
But what if you miss something important by not researching?
Here's the thing, I'm not qualified to interpret medical information anyway. Even if I find information about rare conditions, I don't have the training to know whether it applies to me.
That's a good point. Like, I can read about brain tumor symptoms, but I can't actually diagnose myself with a brain tumor.
And the internet doesn't know your medical history, your family history, your stress levels, or any of the context that would actually matter for diagnosis.
Plus, search engines show you the most dramatic, attention-grabbing information first, not the most likely explanations.
So what do you do when you're really convinced something is wrong?
I write down specifically what I'm worried about and what symptoms I'm having. Then I either call my doctor or wait a few days and see if I still feel the same way.
And most of the time,
either the symptom goes away or I realize I was catastrophizing a normal body sensation.
But what about the anxiety itself? Like, even if the headache is just a headache, I'm still spending hours terrified about it.
That's where you have to treat the anxiety separately from the physical symptom. The headache might be harmless, but the anxiety about it is still real and still worth addressing.
well, do you address it?
All the usual anxiety stuff. Breathing exercises, reminding yourself of the actual probabilities, distraction, talking to someone who can give you perspective.
And remembering that anxiety itself can cause physical symptoms that then make you more anxious.
Right. Anxiety can cause chest tightness, headaches, dizziness, stomach problems. So sometimes what you're worried about is actually being caused by the worry itself.
Which is both annoying and kind of reassuring, because it means your body isn't broken, it's just responding to stress.
Okay, so we've talked about health anxiety, but what about all the random freak accident stuff? Like my bathtub drowning fear or Gianna's pigeon attack scenarios.
Hey, bird injuries are a real thing, but I'll admit that spending mental energy worrying about pigeons flying into my head is probably not the best use of my anxiety.
This is where I think we need to talk about the difference between possible risks and probable risks, because technically, a lot of terrible things are possible.
Right. It's possible that I could slip in the shower and hit my head. It's possible that I could choke on my food. It's possible that a piece of an airplane could fall on me.
All of those things have happened to someone, somewhere. That's why they're scary. They're not completely made up.
But the question is, how much mental energy should we spend on things that are technically possible but statistically very unlikely?
I mean, when you put it that way, probably not much. But my brain doesn't really speak statistics.
Right. Our brains are designed to notice threats, not to calculate probabilities. So a story about someone drowning in a bathtub feels as scary as a story about someone dying in a car accident, even though car accidents are way more common.
And the media makes this worse because they report on freak accidents precisely because they're unusual and attention-grabbing.
Like, you never see a news story that says, local woman takes bath, nothing happens.
Exactly. So we get this skewed perception where rare, dramatic events feel more common than they actually are.
So how do we recalibrate our sense of what's actually worth worrying about?
I've been trying to ask myself, is this something I can reasonably prevent? And is it something that actually happens to people like me?
What do you mean by people like you?
Like, I'm a healthy adult woman in my 20s who doesn't have any major medical conditions, so I don't need to worry about the same things as someone who's elderly or has heart disease.
That's smart. And I've been trying to focus on risks that I can actually do something about versus risks that are completely random.
Give me an example.
Like, I can wear a seatbelt to reduce my risk of dying in a car accident. I can't really do anything to prevent a meteor from hitting me.
So you spend mental energy on the car safety stuff, but not the meteor stuff.
Right. Because worrying about meteors doesn't help me make better decisions, it just makes me anxious.
But what about things like plane crashes? You can choose not to fly, so technically it's preventable.
True, but then you have to weigh the actual risk against the cost of avoiding it. Flying is statistically very safe, and avoiding it completely would really limit my life.
Plus, if you start avoiding everything that has any risk at all, you end up not living your life.
I'm definitely guilty of this. I've avoided so many activities because of very low probability risks.
Like what?
I won't go swimming in natural bodies of water because of brain-eating amoebas. I won't eat at certain types of restaurants because of food poisoning risks. I won't walk under construction sites because of falling debris.
But some of those seem reasonable, like construction sites do have falling debris sometimes.
They do, but the actual risk to any individual person is tiny. And I'm not just avoiding active construction zones, I'm avoiding entire city blocks that might have construction somewhere.
So you're making decisions based on theoretical risks rather than practical ones.
Yeah. And it's making my world smaller without actually making me significantly safer.
I do this too. I won't take baths anymore because of the drowning thing, but I probably slip more often in the shower, so I'm not even reducing my actual risk.
Right. And you're missing out on something you enjoy because of a fear that's not really based on your actual risk level.
So, how do we figure out what's worth being cautious about versus what's just anxiety talking?
I think it helps to look at what most people do. Like, most adults take baths and showers and eat at restaurants and walk around cities without obsessing over the risks.
And if those activities were genuinely dangerous, wouldn't more people be getting hurt doing them?
That's a good point. If bathtub drowning was common, it would be a major public health issue and there would be warning labels and safety campaigns.
Right. The fact that it's not suggests that it's rare enough that it's not worth significant worry for most people.
But what about personal risk factors? Like maybe I have some condition that makes me more likely to fall asleep in the tub.
If you have specific medical conditions or risk factors, then yeah, you might need to take extra precautions that other people don't need.
But most of us don't have specific risk factors for the random accidents we worry about. We're just generally anxious about unlikely events.
So maybe the question is, am I taking reasonable precautions or am I avoiding normal activities because of extremely low probability risks?
And am I making decisions based on actual evidence or based on scary stories I read on the internet?
For me, I think I need to start looking at base rates, like how often do these things actually happen to people in my demographic?
And maybe asking, what would I tell a friend who had this same worry?
That's a good one. I'm usually much more rational when I'm giving advice to other people than when I'm spiraling about my own fears.
Right. If someone told me they were afraid to take baths because they might drown, I'd probably think that was excessive.
But when it's my own brain coming up with the scary scenario, it feels totally reasonable and urgent.
Which is why it helps to have other people's perspectives. They can see when you're being reasonable versus when you're catastrophizing.
And maybe the goal isn't to never worry about random accidents. Maybe it's just to worry about them in proportion to their actual likelihood.
And to not let extremely unlikely scenarios control major life decisions.
Like, it's okay to be aware that freak accidents happen, but it's not okay to let that awareness prevent you from living your life. Time for our guest segment, where we talk to someone dealing with their own health or safety anxiety spiral. Today, we're talking to Julian from Colorado. Julian, thanks for calling in.
Hey, thanks for having me. So my issue is flight anxiety, but it's gotten way worse recently because I keep reading about aviation incidents, and now I'm convinced that flying is way more dangerous than people say it is.
Oh, that's tough. So you weren't always afraid of flying?
Not really. I mean, I was never thrilled about it, but I could do it without panicking. But lately, there have been more stories about planes having problems, and now every time I think about getting on a flight, I imagine all the ways it could go wrong.
Have you been actively seeking out these stories, or are they just showing up in your newsfeed?
A little of both, honestly. Like, I'll see a headline about a plane incident, and then I end up going down this rabbit hole reading about aviation safety and accident reports.
And how does that research make you feel?
Terrible. But I keep telling myself that if I understand all the risks, I'll feel more prepared or something. Instead, I just learn about more things that can go wrong.
That's such classic anxiety logic. Like, maybe if I know about every possible disaster, I can somehow prevent it from happening to me.
Exactly. But now I know about things like engine failures and bird strikes and runway incursions, and I can't unknow them.
But here's the thing, and I say this as someone who researches everything, knowing about all the possible problems doesn't actually change your risk level on any individual flight.
What do you mean?
Like, whether or not you know that bird strikes can happen doesn't affect whether a bird will actually hit your specific plane.
Right. The knowledge doesn't protect you. It just makes you more anxious.
but shouldn't I be informed about the risks I'm taking?
There's a difference between being generally informed and obsessing over specific incident reports. Do you need to know that flying is statistically safer than driving? Sure. Do you need to read detailed accounts of every aviation incident? Probably not.
What would it look like to be appropriately informed without driving yourself crazy?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Maybe start with the basic statistics from official sources, like the FAA or aviation safety organizations, instead of news reports about individual incidents.
Right. News reports are designed to be dramatic and attention-grabbing. Safety statistics are designed to be accurate and comprehensive.
But what if the statistics are wrong or outdated?
Julian, can I ask, when you were flying regularly before, did you feel like you needed to research aviation safety extensively?
No, I just trusted that it was safe because everyone said it was.
And did anything bad happen to you when you were flying based on that trust?
No, all my flights were fine.
So your actual experience with flying has been safe, but your theoretical knowledge about aviation incidents has made you more afraid.
When you put it that way, it sounds kind of ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous, it's just how anxiety works. More information doesn't always lead to less fear.
Sometimes it leads to more fear, especially when the information is about scary but rare events.
So what should I do? Just stop reading about aviation safety entirely?
Maybe set some boundaries around it. Like, if you need to fly somewhere, don't research aviation incidents for the week before your flight.
And when you do see a headline about a plane incident, resist the urge to click on it and read the details.
Instead, remind yourself that you seeing that headline doesn't change anything about your actual flight safety.
That makes sense. It's just hard to ignore when the stories are right there.
What helps me is remembering that news stories are not representative samples. They report on unusual events, not typical ones.
Right? You never see headlines like 3,000 flights land safely today because that's not news.
So I'm getting a distorted view of aviation safety because I'm only hearing about the problems.
Exactly. It's like if you only read news stories about car accidents and then concluded that driving was incredibly dangerous.
Car accidents happen way more often than plane incidents, but you probably don't research every car crash before you drive somewhere.
That's true. I just get in my car without thinking about it.
So maybe the goal is to get back to that same level of routine trust with flying.
How do I do that when I now know about all these potential problems?
Maybe focus on the fact that airlines and pilots know about these problems too, and they have procedures and training specifically designed to handle them.
Right. The reason you know about bird strikes and engine failures is because aviation safety is taken seriously enough that these incidents get investigated and reported.
And most of the time, the safety systems work exactly as they're supposed to. Planes are designed to fly safely even when things go wrong.
I never thought about it that way. Like, the fact that I know about these problems means they're being addressed, not that flying is dangerous.
Exactly. If aviation safety was poor, you wouldn't hear about individual incidents because there would be too many to report on.
So for this week, Julian, maybe try avoiding aviation news entirely and see how that affects your anxiety level.
Okay, I can try that. What if I have to fly soon, though?
Focus on the practical aspects. Getting to the airport on time, what to pack, where you're going, not on theoretical safety scenarios.
And remind yourself that millions of people fly safely every day. Your flight is almost certainly going to be one of them.
Thanks, that actually helps. I think I've been making this way more complicated than it needs to be.
All right, everyone, homework time. This week, we're doing the probability check challenge.
Pick one thing you've been avoiding or worrying about because of safety concerns. Research the actual statistical likelihood of that thing causing harm.
But not by reading news stories or personal accounts. Look for official statistics from health organizations, safety agencies, or academic studies.
Then compare that statistical risk to other risks you take regularly without thinking about it, like driving or walking downstairs.
The goal isn't to prove that everything is perfectly safe. It's to get a more accurate sense of relative risk levels.
And to practice making decisions based on data rather than fear or dramatic stories.
Remember, your anxiety is not a reflection of actual danger levels. It's your brain trying to protect you, but sometimes with outdated or inaccurate information.
Take care of your health. Take reasonable safety precautions, but don't let extremely unlikely scenarios control your life decisions.
Thanks for listening to What Me Worry. I'm Cora.
I'm Emily.
I'm Gianna.
And I'm Julian, and I'm going to try to book a flight without Googling plane crashes first.
We believe in you, Julian.
This was an AI scripted voice drama for entertainment and informational purposes only. If you're in crisis or need professional help, please call 988 or contact your local emergency services.
And remember, most of the scary things you worry about are either very unlikely or very manageable.
Your body is trying to keep you alive, not kill you. Trust it a little bit.